Okay, hello everyone. Today we would like to learn the Indonesian and Malaysian language at one video. So usually in this channel we speak Malay, and I use my hometown accent, which is Malay. But for your information, I'm Indonesian. So we're living in a borderline between Indonesia and Malaysia, so we speak these two languages. I believe for some foreigners who don't speak Malay or don't speak Indonesia, they don't really know what the difference is between Indonesia and Malaysia. They thought the language is just the same. But actually there are a lot of differences between these two languages. Today we would like to learn about 1H5W, which is how, what, when, where, who, why. So we're going to use these 5 words into Malay and Indonesian language. The number one is how. In Indonesia, the people usually say how, bagaimana. In Malay, they usually say macam mana. So, yeah, it's quite different, right? Bagaimana and macam mana. And number 2 is what. What Indonesian people used to say apa. In Malaysia, they used to say apa. Okay, apa and apa. And number 2, when. Most of Indonesia will say when with the kapan, and Malaysia will say the when with bila. And then where. Where in Indonesia is di mana, but Malaysia will say di mana with di mana. And then who, siapa. Malaysia will say with siapa. And then why. Indonesia, they will say mengapa, and Malaysia will say mengapa. There's another words, despite of mengapa, there also kenapa. And in Malaysia, they will say kenapa. You can hear the differences about the sounds of the last words, which is a. Indonesia, they used to say, for example, apa, but in Malaysia, they will say apa with apa. So that's totally different. But most of all people in Malaysia, they will say like that. For example, what, apa. Indonesia, most of people will say what is apa. But Indonesia and Malaysia is very large country. Indonesia and Malaysia have the same culture, have a lot of similarity between these two countries. So some people in Indonesia also use for example, where, di mana. Some of Indonesians who live in the Sumatra island, they're gonna say di mano or di mana. And especially for my village, we will say di mana. So we're gonna put these 5 words into one sentence. For example, how you do that. If we want to translate how you do that in Indonesia, we're gonna say, gimana cara kamu melakukan itu? How you do that? Gimana cara kamu melakukan itu, or gimana caranya? But in Malaysia, they will say, macam mana cara kamu buat benda tu, or macam mana caranya? Okay, so that's quite different. And then what? For example, in English, what are you going to do? In Indonesia, the translate will be, apa yang akan kamu lakukan? In Malaysia, they will say like, apa yang kau nak buat? Okay? And then, when? For example, when we go to Jakarta, Indonesia will say, kapan kita akan pergi ke Jakarta? Or kapan kita ke Jakarta? Malaysia will say, bila kita ke Jakarta, or bila kita nak ke Jakarta. Okay? And then next is where. Where is your house? Example, Indonesia will say that with, di mana rumah kamu? Malaysia will say, rumah kau kat mana? Next, who? Who is the president of Indonesia? For example, in Indonesia, I will translate into siapa presiden Indonesia, or siapakah presiden Indonesia. In Malaysia, they're going to say, siapa Presiden Indonesia? Okay? And then the last one is why. For example, why are you so beautiful? Okay, why are you so beautiful? In Indonesia, they're going to say, kenapa kamu cantik sekali? In Malaysia, they're going to say, kenapa awak lawa sangat? There's only few sample for today about 1H and 5W. So I really hope you guys enjoy this video. Yep. Let's say this video is just for trial. I want to see how many views that I'm gonna get for this video. If I get a lot of views, so I'm gonna make another like second part or third parts for the understanding between Indonesia and Malaysia. But I told you guys, if you're not speaking Malay, I mean your mother language it's not Malay, you're coming from everywhere. It means if you learn one language, which is Indonesia, or you learn one language, which is Malaysia or Malaysia, so you also have a chance to understand Indonesia at the same time. So, yep, this language, which is Malay language, Indonesian language, or Malaysia language, coming from the same root, which is Malay language, which is Malay language from Riau and Johor language. So Indonesian use the standard of the language from Riau, which is today part of Indonesia, and Johor, they use the language basically from Johor. I mean Malaysia, they use basically Malay language from Johor, which is now part of Malaysia. So that these two countries using the same root of language, but then the accent between these two languages a little bit different. But I'm gonna say you, not everyone in Malaysia, for example, not everyone in Malaysia, for example, in northern Malaysia or Kedah or Penang, they also say, for example, what? They're going to say apa. And why? Why? Most of people say kenapa. They're going to say kenapa because they're their own action for one part of Malaysia. Yeah, another example is how. Most of Indonesian will say bagaimana, but in one city or one part of Sumatra Island in Indonesia, Medan, one of the big city in Indonesia, Medan, they're gonna also say macam mana. Yeah, that's not macam mana, but macam mana. So a lot of similarity despite of differences between these two languages. So I really hope you guys will, yeah, slow but sure understand the difference with two countries. If you learn Malay or you learn Indonesian, you just need to convert your language style into another country. Maybe the differences between Indonesia and Malaysia is just the same. It's like islands and English, maybe, or just the same. It's like Australian English and English. I mean, yeah. So there must be a difference, but it's kind of awkward if you speak Indonesia and then you go to Malaysia, or you speak Malaysia and then you go to Indonesia. There's because it's awkward for Indonesian people to hear that. Okay, I guess that's all for this video. I really hope you guys enjoy this. And once again, I remind you guys, this channel's using Malay language, which is I'm Malay people, but my nationality is Indonesia. So I mean, yeah, I have responsibility for any foreigner who wants to speak Malay because they speak my language, they speak our language. So, yep. Thank you very much. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe. Okay, thank you very much. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe. If I got a lot of views today, I'm gonna make a second part. Okay? I promise you guys. Okay? See you next video, and thank you very much.